The series begins with a police investigation. A criminal named Lee Him is under investigation and he is narrating a story about his past. According to documents, Lee Him should have been 70 years old, but he looks only 40 years old. This makes police suspicious. Then he narrates a story about his past and tells the police that in the ancient days of the Silla dynasty, King Simon received a mystical bamboo flute named Manpazajiak from the Dragon King of the East Sea. This flute is not just any musical instrument. According to legends, this flute could influence enemies to retreat, cure diseases, control the weather, and even manipulate the forces of nature. Then, Lee Him confesses to killing his brother to acquire this magical flute. It is revealed that when Lee Him killed his brother, his nephew Lee Gan attacked him. During this, the flute broke into two pieces and a strange man arrived who single-handedly dealt with Lee Him and his men. Due to this, Lee Him had to flee the palace without the second piece of the broken flute. Meanwhile, Lee Gan sees the masked stranger who came to his rescue, and as he is leaving, Lee Gan takes the ID card from his neck and becomes unconscious again. Meanwhile, Lee Him reaches a bamboo forest and sees a magical door there which connects two parallel worlds. He crosses the door and enters into the Republic of Korea. He sees his brother's look-alike there and realizes that the two worlds are somehow connected, but people living in both of these worlds have different identities, living a completely different life. Upon realizing this, he finds his brother's look-alike and his son and kills them both. Then he finds his look-alike and throws him into the Kingdom of Korea to give the impression that Lee Him is dead. After this, he settles in the Republic of Korea and starts a new life. It is revealed that Lee Him is preparing an army for himself by luring innocent and helpless people, promising to send them to the other world. Now, the scene shifts to the present where we see Lee Gan has become the king of the Kingdom of Korea. He is still trying to find the stranger who saved his life, but all he has is her ID card. The ID card belongs to a young woman named Jong Tae-yul and she is a detective. Then we are introduced to the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Korea, a young woman named Gu Seoryung. It is revealed that Gu is in love with Lee Gan as she wants to be the Queen of Korea. However, Lee Gan is not interested in her. In the next scene, Lee Gan takes part in a boating competition. During this, some goons try to chase a girl. When Lee Gan sees her, he goes after the girl as well, but she vanishes and Lee Gan gets worried. Then, the Republic of Korea is shown where Jang Tae-yul is investigating a case involving a dead body with her partner. Back in Korea, Lee Gan sees the girl from his previous encounter and follows her on his horse. He reaches the bamboo forest and enters the magical door which takes him to the parallel world of Korea. Lee Gan is surprised by this world, but he is suddenly stopped by Detective Jang Tae-yul for breaking traffic rules. As soon as Lee Gan sees her, he recognizes her from the ID card and hugs her. Tae-yul gets confused and takes him in police custody. Episode 2 kicks off with Tae-yul interrogating Lee Gan, demanding his ID card. Instead, he proclaims himself as the King of Korea and reveals his belief in coming from a parallel universe. Despite his attempts, Tae-yul arrests him. A search of Lee Gan's belongings reveals materials related to the Kingdom of Korea, prompting Tae-yul to seize them for investigation. Upon checking Lee Gan's fingerprints, Tae-yul finds no matches in the database, leading her to take a mouth swab. Attempting to distract her with charm, he eventually convinces Tae-yul to release him. After this, Lee Gan sells a diamond, securing a hotel room with the money while Tae-yul resumes work. In Korea, Oknam worries for Lee Gan and Captain Jo searches for clues to track him. However, the CCTV footage and halted footprints in the forest puzzle him. Remembering Lee Gan's rabbit story, he decides to piece together the situation. Meanwhile, in the Republic, Lee Gan settles in a hotel, exchanging messages with Tae-yul. They meet, discussing the disparities over lunch. During this, Tae-yul reflects on Lee Gan's words and tries to investigate him. It is revealed that the ID card Lee Gan acquired 25 years ago was issued to her on November 11, 2019. While waiting, Lee Gan decides to make Tae-yul his queen. The episode concludes with Tae-yul baffled as Lee Gan expresses his intention to marry her. Episode 3 opens with Tae-yul canceling plans with Shin-jae to meet Lee Gan. Their encounter takes an unexpected turn as Lee Gan proposes to her, offering his heart. Though she rejects him, Tae-yul challenges him to prove the existence of a parallel universe. Lee Gan leads her to the bamboo forest only to realize that the magical door is absent because he doesn't possess the flute. As they discuss fate and family, they return to their world. Meanwhile, back in the station, Shin-jae observes Maximus and the royal seal, adding an element of mystery. On the other hand, in Korea, Oknam hires a new court writer addressing rumors about Lee Gan's disappearance. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Gu faces resistance during a heated board meeting on salary issues, emphasizing the importance of citizens. Seeing this, Oknam assigns Jo Young the task of investigating Tae-yul. In the Republic, a lively recruit, Jangmi, joins the station for a murder investigation. Simultaneously, it is revealed that Sinjae collaborates with shady figures aiming for a promotion. Meanwhile, Taeyul, fascinated by Lee Gan's existence, engages in a candid conversation with him over drinks. Their discussion touches on historical deviations, adding depth to the storyline. The next day, Taeyul's car breaks down, prompting Lee Gan to go for her rescue. As he reaches the scene, he freezes the time with the help of the flute and observes her. Armed with the flute, Lee Gan realizes that both worlds can now be traversed. Meanwhile, Jangmi's discovery provides closure to the Kim Bokman case, but Taeyul remains skeptical. After some time, her investigation takes a dark turn in an alley facing off against thugs. However, Lee Gan intervenes, showcasing his combat skills and rescues her once again. After this incident, Lee Gan bids farewell to Taeyul, revealing his plan to return to his world, leaving the palace vacant for too long. He summons the portal and rides through with Maximus, and this is where the episode ends. Episode 4 begins in the Kingdom of Korea as Lee Lim experiences the time freezes firsthand. Thanks to him holding part of the flute, he's immune to its effects. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Koo arrives at the palace to check on Lee Gan and make sure he's not missing. She bursts into the room and sees him standing with Jo Young. After Oknam berates Lee Gan for leaving, she tends to his jacket and notices the barbecue chicken coupon and the book of poetry, labeled Poems of Kim So-wool, in the pocket. Meanwhile, Lee Lim starts to figure out that his nephew can jump through time while Lee Gan himself faces the past and looks upon the place where his father was killed, in particular the sword that lies there. Heading back to the palace, time stops again, but this time Lee Gan counts the seconds to try and work out if there's some sort of pattern. As it starts to rain and lightning crackles across the sky, Lee Gan once again starts to feel pain in his shoulder back at the palace. Jo Young watches his veins crackle orange just as this happens, and as the head of security dashes out of the room, Lee Gan takes his opportunity to snatch up the flute and leave. Shinjae confronts his mother when she returns home and finds a whole stack of cash hidden up her skirt. Realizing she clearly stole this through illegal gambling, Shinjae forces her to bring the bag back to its origin, with Jangmi joining him to snap photos of the operation. When the boss arrives, Shinjae realizes this could cause some serious ramifications for him, but he follows through with the arrest. Meanwhile, a little boy on a bike knocks Taeyul's ID out of her hands and it falls down the drain. Realizing this may fit with the prophetic narrative, this is reinforced further in the form of the Korean notes, which she learns are real and watermarked. Taeyul heads back into the station and realizes the dates for her replacement card coincide with what she's been told by Lee Gan. As she sits in stunned silence, she receives a call from Lee Gan himself and she immediately races off, where she finds herself face to face with the king. She questions him about the ID card and he tells her exactly what she was wearing the day of the photo. He takes her hand and convinces her to come with him so she can see the card for herself. Riding on Maximus, they make their way into the forest and he races through the portal to the other side, to Korea. Episode 5 begins in the Republic of Korea with Shinjae learning that Maximus and Lee Gan have now gone. After this brief introduction, we cut across to Korea where Jo Young rings through to Oknam and tells her that Lee Gan has returned. As she looks at the 4-tiger sword, Lee Gan welcomes Taeyul to his world. He also shows her a strange gateway where time passes differently. For now, though, this remains a mystery as Lee Gan takes her back to the palace. While the king attends his duties, Taeyul is tended to by Nari. Only in this universe, she's known as Mungsungae. Meanwhile, Taeyul finds herself in over her head and tries to learn more about this world, calling herself an illegal migrant. After some time, Jo Young arrives and requests her thumbprint. He outright asks just who she is and questions whether she's the one who caused the scars on Lee Gan's shoulder to materialize. This is the first time Taeyul has heard about this, of course, and she looks surprised when he asks. After this, Lee Gan coolly arrives with a plate full of food and dismisses his advisors. However, she demands he try the food first, given she's like Alice in Wonderland, but when he refuses, she wolfs it down until Oknam arrives and escorts her to her room. Given strict instructions by Oknam, Taeyul tries to settle in but struggles to acclimatize to this strange new world. After some time, Lee Gan goes to her room and settles in with her, sitting against the bed and talking about this world. When the conversation turns to dating, Lee Gan kisses her tenderly, but she simply stares at him, unmoving. In the morning, Lee Gan heads back to her room and suggests they leave without the court lady knowing, but Oknam happens to be in the room and she berates him for his naivety. After this, the king does his rounds, hitting a basketball in the hoop and discussing math with a room full of eager listeners. Meanwhile, Lee Lim meets with a poor woman and tells her she needs to kill her own self in Korea to take a better life for herself. That poor woman presumably has familial ties to Congressman Park in Korea, with the implication he's planting decoys there, but for now, this is very much in the realm of guesswork and speculation. Tae-yul continues to explore Korea, heading to the police station and exploring her old hangout spots. The king eventually calls Jo-young to go and gather her, bringing Tae-yul to him. It turns out Tae-yul was looking for her mum all this time, but before she can elaborate further, Prime Minister Koo arrives with news. As she greets them both, she outstretches her hand and introduces herself to Tae-yul. Episode 6 begins with Prime Minister Koo introducing herself to Tae-yul, but Tae-yul instead calls herself a traveler. As Lee Gon takes his leave with her, Koo remains suspicious. On his private jet, Lee Gon and Tae-yul exchange words via their hands as Secretary Mo's wide-eyed stare shows how scandalous this act is in Korea. When they land, Lee Gon cooks for Tae-yul and they discuss his past involving Lee Lim and the scar inflicted by him on his neck, a constant reminder of his hell. As they sit down to eat, Lee Gon hands over Tae-yul's ID card he's kept all this time. Meanwhile, news arrives that the Japanese Navy has made a strategic military move and entered territorial waters. Given this is the third time they've done this and Koo has talked them down twice, they learn that this may not work out as effectively a third time. Koo summons the troops to mobilize and prepare for action while the Japanese ships sail toward Korean shores. As Lee Gon prepares for the fight ahead, dressed in naval gear, Tae-yul promises to wait for him as she heads back to the Republic and slots back into her role as a police investigator. Meanwhile, Lee Gon makes a strategic move and presses ahead with surrounding the Japanese vessel. He fires a warning shot at the Aegis and for now, at least, things remain stabilized. The conflict, however, feels like it's far from over. Back at the palace, Jo-young tries to find information about Tae-yul in their database and learns there's no match for Tae-yul on the system and sets to work on the next stage of his plan. He searches through the CCTV footage and finds a match with Tae-yul. He remains quiet in the presence of Lee Gon though, who's called away by Prince Byong, who presents him with the death certificate of the man that's supposed to be Lee Lim, only it isn't Lee Lim and the prince has been lying all this time. This is when Lee Gon realizes that his rival is still alive. Meanwhile, we see Lee Lim in Korea order coffee, which is given to him by none other than Nari. He tells her a typhoon is coming and as he leaves, lightning crackles across the sky, prompting his neck to spark with the same strange glow as Lee Gon's has in the past. Meanwhile, realizing that Lee Lim is going to be coming for the other half of the flute, Lee Gon jumps across to Korea again and stands waiting for Tae-yul as she arrives at the Taekwondo center. She rushes toward him and throws her arms around him. Episode 7 begins in Korea as Oknam and the prince contemplate their dark past and choose to tell Lee Gon the truth about what happened surrounding Lee Lim. Meanwhile, China's foreign minister arrives and he sits with Lee Gon where they discuss the future prosperity of both countries. Lee Gon is presented with the gift of his people being allowed to travel freely into China and he expresses gratitude in the wake of this powerful leader. After exchanging pleasantries, Lee Gon rides into the forest but is stopped by Jo-young standing at the gateway. He goes on to admit what he's found out about Luna and how he believes Tae-yul has been deceiving him all this time, an imposter inside the palace walls. To prove there are two doppelgangers, Lee Gon takes Jo-young with him through the portal to Korea. Meanwhile, as Lee Lim continues to scheme, he feels time has stopped again and senses that Lee Gon has left the palace. As he contemplates just why he keeps leaving, Lee Lim makes his move involving Chairman Park's son Byong-yu killing his own doppelganger and taking the position of CEO in Korea. Prime Minister Koo, meanwhile, looks at the TV monitor as this happens and appears to see a glimmer of someone staring off into the distance. In the Republic of Korea, Tae-yul and Shin-jae receive a call about a murder and race there together where they learn a 26-year-old female has died. Given the piercings in the neck, they assume that the killer was a close accomplice. However, they have to wait 3 weeks for the autopsy results to come back. In the meantime, Tae-yul and Shin-jae are tasked with a stakeout before her shift ends and she heads to Nari's coffee shop to discuss the prospect of another world being out there. It's here that Nari tells her that the rule of doppelgangers causes chaos in the worlds and as such one of them will need to die to balance the universe out. In the meantime, Lee Gon returns to Korea once more and presents Jo-young to Tae-yul. Despite his insistence that they're safe, Eun-seop shows up and sees himself, leading to a hilarious turn of events. The most alarming part for Eun-seop though is that he didn't realize how handsome he actually is. As the two versions continue talking, they lay out some ground rules before Jo-young and Eun-seop talk about the differences between the worlds. While they do, Tae-yul heads out with Lee Gon, who hands him a phone with useful numbers. Unfortunately, their happiness is short-lived when Tae-yul tells him news from Lee Gon's world surrounding the K Stadium being built. This isn't supposed to happen and hints at it being Lee Lim's meddling, given he's been switching key players between worlds. After this, Tae-yul and Lee Gon agree to join forces and he hands over the autopsy death report for Lee Lim along with his picture and fingerprint records. Knowing that he may well be the one behind everything, they decide to work on learning exactly what he's been doing for the last 24 years. During this, Lee Gan experiences time stopping again, and he quickly stuffs a note in Jo Young's pocket to prove this has occurred. When time unfreezes, Lee Gan now realizes what he needs to do and teams up with Jo Young to try and trap Lee Lim and work out which world he's jumped to. Meanwhile, in Korea, Prime Minister Koo learns the identity of Tae-yul and sees the images of Luna in prison. Given she's been released quite recently, we cut across to Tae-yul, who realizes that someone has her face in Korea. As the episode draws to a close, Luna is released from prison and finds herself face-to-face with Prime Minister Koo, who obviously recognizes her face. Episode 8 begins with Lee Lim making his move and deciding to track down Tae-yul. As he discusses how Lee Gan was the one who made the first move, in Korea Prime Minister Koo finds herself face-to-face with Luna. After talking, Koo realizes that Luna and Tae-yul are different people but suspects they may be twin sisters. Luna continues and meets one of her old contacts, demanding her money back and threatening him. At the same time, the pregnant woman Lee Lim met a few episodes ago starts getting ready while Lee Lim himself meets Koo's mother. In the Republic of Korea, Shin-jae gets the test results back from the autopsy. Together with Tae-yul, they contemplate whether Jang-ji may be the one responsible. Meanwhile, Shin-jae takes his mother out for food and they have a touching conversation about their circumstances. It's a raw and poignant moment, but also one that seems to hint at one big plot point. The pregnant woman Lee Lim met in Korea may well be Shin-jae's mother. Continuing her stakeout, Tae-yul and Jang-mi catch Park Young-gu, but in a surprising turn of events, Yeon-ji decides to turn herself in. At the station, she confesses to the murder and allows herself to be taken away in handcuffs. Outside, Tae-yul says goodbye to Young-gu, but he mentions how Yang-ji had 2 phones and it prompts her to immediately head back to the apartment where she finds the phone charger, meaning the phone itself must be around somewhere. Lee Gan and Jo Young head to the restaurant, but the waiter appears to recognize them both, ringing alarm bells for the king. That evening, Jo Young captures him and hands his phone over to Lee Gan. It turns out this man was one of those guards in the throne room all those years ago when Lee Gan's father was killed.